I was browsing YouTube and I saw that CBR came out with a video ranking the characters of Star Wars in terms of strength. This didn't seem to just be one of those videos where they just randomly pick popular Star Wars characters, and they actually tried to use reasons and feats to come up with this list. However, something went terribly wrong. This list is extremely inaccurate, and while they did get a few things right, the list is pretty bad as a whole. I'm going to go into detail on what they did wrong and why they should go home and rethink their life. The problem of this video starts all the way at the beginning. They put Luke Skywalker at number 1. While Luke in his prime should theoretically be extremely powerful, he just doesn't have the feats to justify him being considered the strongest in all of Star Wars. In episode 6, he did defeat Darth Vader, but Vader was internally conflicted and didn't actually want to kill his son. So while I do think Luke is one of the strongest in Star Wars history, I just don't think he's the strongest. For number 2, they put Darth Vader. Darth Vader, formerly known as Anakin Skywalker, is the Chosen One, with the highest midichlorian count that we know of, even higher than Master Yoda's. And he has some of the best showings in the entire series, so there's no surprise he would be high up on the list. But I think number 2 is a bit too high. After having his limbs cut off and being burnt to a crisp, he lost his ability to reach his true potential. Vader himself admitted he couldn't defeat the Emperor alone, and this is backed by George Lucas saying Vader was inferior to his master. Number 3 was Emperor Palpatine, and you could possibly guess from what I've already said, but I think he should be higher. He was confirmed to be stronger than Darth Vader by both in-universe and out-of-universe statements, and he was able to easily torture Luke with Force lightning. So he actually beat Luke already, and they were both unarmed, so it was a completely fair fight. Luke almost definitely got stronger than he was during episode 6, but he never showed off anything to indicate that he could take down the Emperor. Obi-Wan comes in next.
Hello there.
And he may have had the high ground, but he shouldn't have been this high on the list. He did defeat Anakin during the final duel of Revenge of the Sith, but that was mostly due to Anakin's cockiness. Anakin was actually the one pushing Obi-Wan back most of the fight, and Obi-Wan lost to Dooku at the beginning of the movie. He's definitely weaker than all of the characters above him, but he's weaker than some of the characters below him. At least one of them. And that character comes in at number 5, Yoda. Yoda's on par with Palpatine, and he should easily be in the top 2. At the end of episode 3, Yoda told Obi-Wan to go after Anakin because the Emperor was too powerful for him. That clearly means Yoda is stronger than Obi-Wan, at least at the time. However, Obi-Wan at that time is arguably him at his strongest, and him during episode 4 was still weaker than Vader, who was weaker than Palpatine, who was around Yoda's level. So Yoda should definitely be above Obi-Wan. He should be above Luke due to Luke's lack of feats, and being on par with Palpatine should put him above Vader as well, though you could argue Emperor Palpatine got stronger over time, so maybe Vader reached or surpassed Yoda's level, while still staying weaker than Palpatine, though I don't think there's anything to back that up. So for me, I would have Yoda above Vader, but I could see someone thinking it would be close or having Vader a bit above, though I personally wouldn't agree. Their choice for the 6th spot on this list was Mace Windu. Mace Windu is definitely one of the most powerful warriors in Star Wars, and I think he should definitely be above Obi-Wan, and arguably Luke and Vader. I feel Luke should have surpassed Mace, but like I said, his lack of feats makes it really hard to say he would win in a fight. I think Mace versus Vader would be an extremely close one. I think whether or not Mace actually beat Palpatine, or if Palpatine threw the fight, would be a big factor in my decision on who would win. I think I might lean towards Vader winning though, just due to how much experience Vader has killing Jedi, and being superior in raw power. For some reason they decided to put Darth Plagueis at number 7. We never even see him, so there's literally no way to properly place him on this list. I wouldn't say they put him too high or too low, since I have no idea where he should be. I'll just say they shouldn't have put him on the list at all. Yes, Liam Neeson is cool, but his badass scenes from other movies don't carry over to Star Wars, and how powerful Qui-Gon Jinn is. Qui-Gon Jinn definitely gets slept on sometimes, and he was the Jedi who discovered and taught Yoda the ability to become a Force ghost. But how the hell do you put him above Darth Maul, the guy who literally killed him in a fight? Actually, it wasn't a fair fight, because Qui-Gon had his apprentice helping him for a good portion of it. And it's not like that's the only time they fought. They fought earlier in the movie on Tatooine, and Qui-Gon had to run and was so tired he could barely stand, while Maul seemed just fine. Qui-Gon should definitely be below everyone above him though, so at least they got that right. Coming in at number 9 is Ahsoka. She should probably be above Qui-Gon, but besides that, She should be below everyone else above her in my opinion. While she was able to hold her own against Vader fairly well, she was clearly on the back foot, and both Luke and Obi-Wan have done better against Vader than she did. Barely making the top 10, we have Darth Maul. As I have already mentioned, he should be above Qui-Gon because, well, he literally beat him on screen even with help. They bring up him losing to Obi-Wan when he was just a Padawan, but Maul only lost that duel to his overconfidence. He actually kind of beat Obi-Wan considering he pushed him down a hole and disarmed him, and if Qui-Gon's lightsaber wasn't there, Obi-Wan wouldn't have had that chance of surprising Maul and cutting him in half. They also mentioned how they included his feats in the Clone Wars and Rebels since they're canon, and it was flat out stated Maul grew more powerful during the Clone Wars, so Maul's even stronger than he was in Episode 1, and he was already stronger than Qui-Gon at that point. In Rebels, he admitted he couldn't beat Vader alone, so he should be below Vader, and he lost to Kenobi in Rebels, so I think he should be below Kenobi as well. So the only person you should definitely be above is Qui-Gon. It's hard to say how he compares to Ahsoka since they only fought for a few seconds in Rebels, and they both can't beat Vader, so we can't compare them based off of that either. They will actually end up fighting in the upcoming Clone Wars season, and while Ahsoka wouldn't be in her prime at that point, if she actually gives Maul a run for his money, she would have probably surpassed him by Rebels. If she gets completely outmatched, then I might lean towards Maul being stronger due to doing a bit better against the Inquisitors than she did, being more ruthless and due to having more feats. Count Dooku didn't make the top 10, but he did make it into our hearts. Okay, maybe not, but this powerful Sith Lord should have made it a bit higher in the rankings. In Episode 2, he was able to hold his own against Yoda in both the Force and lightsaber combat. In Episode 3, he beat Obi-Wan while Anakin was there helping him. Just like with the last two characters, I think he should have been above Qui-Gon, and I think he should have probably been above Ahsoka and Maul as well. Maul vs. Dooku is a heavily debated fight, but Dooku has the edge in being able to use Force lightning, and he was able to do better against Yoda than Maul was able to do against Palpatine. Plus, he beat Kenobi twice, while Maul can't seem to catch a break. Dooku could probably put up an extremely good fight against Mace or Vader, but I think he would lose to both of them. He's definitely below Yoda and Palpatine. I would say he's weaker than Luke in his prime, but like I said, Luke's lack of feats makes him hard to place. Kylo Ren is the first character from the sequel trilogy that makes it on this list, and I do believe he should be below everyone above him on the list. At least as of now. The new movie may push him up a bit depending on what he accomplishes. Qui-Gon is the only one I see him possibly beating, but due to his poor performance against Finn and Rey, I have a hard time seeing him beat one of the best Jedi Masters of the Order, who was able to hold his own against Maul for a while. Not surprisingly, Rey was placed right next to Kylo. They do seem similar in power, and for some reason skill, and while some people might be upset Rey was put below Kylo due to her beating him in The Force Awakens, I actually agree with her being below him. She only won due to Kylo being conflicted and him being shot by Chewie's bowcaster right before the fight. They placed Asajj Ventress at number 14. She should have definitely been above Rey and Kylo in my opinion due to her achievements throughout the Clone Wars. For example, fighting Anakin and Obi-Wan at the same time and separately on multiple occasions. She also fought Dooku twice and lived to tell the tale, though she did have help. She might be able to beat Qui-Gon, and I would personally put her higher than him due to having way more showings, but she's definitely below everyone else above her. One of their biggest mistakes on this list was them putting Supreme Leader Snoke at number 15. This guy was easily one of the strongest in Star Wars history, and he literally toyed with Rey on screen. How can you put Rey above Snoke when he casually beat her even though she was armed and he wasn't? That makes absolutely no sense. And there's a reason Kylo killed Snoke with a sneak attack, and it wasn't because he was confident in his victory. The fact Kylo was shown to be about equal to Rey in the Force should be enough proof Snoke could casually ragdoll him in the same manner. Due to not having a lightsaber, Snoke is at a big disadvantage though. So anyone powerful enough to resist him throwing them around with the Force would just close the distance and chop him up. For this reason, I think Yoda and Palpatine would definitely be above him, as they're at least around his level in the Force, and they have lightsabers. I think Vader is also powerful enough to resist being thrown around and close the distance. As long as he avoids Snoke's Force lightning, he should be able to win as well. If Luke has a lightsaber, I think him and his prime could probably win. Dooku could shoot lightning just like Snoke, and has ragdolled Kenobi, who should be stronger than Rey, so I feel like he could win as well. Maul has also shown to be extremely powerful in the Force, throwing Kenobi around and ripping a giant ship off a cliff, and collapsing a cave, so he also has a good chance of winning. Mace didn't get ragdolled by Sidious, but that again depends on if Palpatine was throwing the fight or not. Obi-Wan during Episode 3 would probably lose, as he got ragdolled by Dooku, who I think is weaker than Snoke in the Force. But by the time of A New Hope, Obi-Wan may have grown in the Force, so in his prime, he may be strong enough to resist being thrown around. Ahsoka, Asajj, and Qui-Gon all probably lose due to a lack of raw force power. Number 16 was Boba Fett.
Boba Fett? Boba Fett? Where?
But for some reason, the entire time they showed clips of Jango Fett. Boba Fett in the movies really isn't that impressive, but I believe he has some showings in the new canon comics, and if we assume he is around the level of Jango, then where they placed him isn't horrible. Jango gave Obi-Wan in Episode 2 some trouble, so he should definitely be around the level of a Jedi Knight, and he's definitely below everyone above him on this list. 17 is Kit Fisto, and this is another place that I don't really hate, though he could arguably be above Boba/Jango, Rey, and Kylo. I think when it comes to raw force power, he's probably below every other force user above him on the list, but his saber skills are pretty good considering he did pretty well against Grievous, and they might be enough to give him the win over Rey or Kylo. But yeah, nothing really horrible about putting him here. At 18, they put Kanan Jarrus. He should definitely be below just about everyone above him on this list. Boba/Jango are the only ones I see him having a good chance against if he decides to abuse the Force, since they don't have it. But it's not the Jedi way to try to attack and kill with the Force, so there's a good chance of him losing against them as well. Another character I think they should have left off the list is their number 19 pick, Ki-Adi-Mundi. As a Jedi Master, he should be pretty powerful, and he did have the most lines out of any of the background Jedi from the movies, but he just doesn't have enough feats to properly place him. Number 20, the Bendu. As CBR said, some would claim that he does not deserve a place on this list at all, and I am one of those people. It's not because I think he's weak. He's just impossible to properly place as he never really fights anyone. I think there's a trend here, because the next character on this list also doesn't have enough feats to properly place. And that would be Princess Leia. As the daughter of Darth Vader and brother of Luke, she has a strong connection to the Force, but she has never used it in combat. We saw her fight with a blaster in the original trilogy, but nothing that justifies putting her on this list. For number 22, they decided to actually put another character with some fights under their belt. The Grand Inquisitor is the strongest member of a group of Jedi hunters, and with his double-bladed twirling lightsaber, he's a force to be reckoned with. He was a former Jedi Temple guard, so he has a connection with the Force, as all Inquisitors do. He lost to Kanan, which means he deserves to be below everyone else on this list, besides the ones who shouldn't be on the list to begin with, and maybe Boba/Jango due to their lack of force powers. Number 23 is the main characters from Star Wars Rebels, Ezra Bridger. He's definitely below everyone above him on this list, including Boba/Jango. His inexperience would be his undoing, as he would not be able to handle experienced killers of that level, who could go toe-to-toe with actual Jedi Knights. That being said, he should not have been put above General Grievous. That is another one of the extremely stupid choices on this list. Speaking of stupid choices, Han Solo may be a fan favorite, but the fact they put him above General Grievous is just bizarre. He's good with a blaster, but he isn't even close to the level of an experienced Jedi killer. And if we're talking about skill with a blaster, there are plenty of stronger characters who should have had this spot instead of Han. For example, Cad Bane, Captain Phasma, or the newcomer, the Mandalorian. All the way at the bottom, at number 25, is General Grievous. I actually agree with a lot of what they said about the General, and how he's overhyped sometimes. But he still isn't nearly as bad as they're making him out to be. He still gave Obi-Wan trouble multiple times throughout the Clone Wars and in Episode 3. He had a good fight with Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress, crossed blades with Maul in one of the comics, and he slaughtered plenty of clone troopers in his day. These are feats characters like Han Solo have no chance of achieving, and Grievous had been shown to be semi-resistant to blaster fire, so Han really has no chance in one-on-one combat. The only reason Kenobi managed to kill him with the blaster was due to the fact he pried Grievous's chest open, exposing his internal organs. Han has no chance of getting that close without getting chopped into pieces. Ezra would also be overwhelmed, similar to how Padawan Ahsoka was. Grievous should be able to beat Kanan, and the Grand Inquisitor as well, in my opinion. However, Grievous needed to call in help for his fights against Fisto and Ventress, so he should probably be placed below them. So that about sums up the problems I have with their specific placements, but I also think they left out a lot of powerful characters that actually deserve to be on the list. The most powerful of which being Mother Towson, who was the leader of the Night Sisters and Darth Maul's mother. She had Mace Windu on the ropes and was able to challenge Darth Sidious himself. This should easily put her in the top 10, or at least close to it. Another relative of Maul, Savage Opress, should have also made the list. He killed multiple Jedi throughout the Clone Wars, was able to survive multiple direct blaster shots to the body, and was extremely powerful in the Force, being able to push back Dooku, Ventress, Anakin, and Obi-Wan. He should have been ranked somewhere around Ventress, as he has more raw power but less skill, and they seem to be of a similar level when fighting each other. Pong Krell and Barriss Offee are both Jedi who turned bad during the Clone Wars, and who are definitely stronger than some of the characters on this list. There are some characters from the game Jedi Fallen Order, as well as the Mandalorian from the new TV show, who deserve spots on this list more than some of the ones who actually made it, but since those things are so new, I understand why they left them out. I'm not going to make my own list ranking the strength of the different Star Wars characters right now, but I'm planning on doing so after I see the rise of Skywalker. So if you're interested in what my list is going to look like, I recommend subscribing to my channel so you're notified when it comes out. I will be using actual feats and logic when creating my lists, so while you might disagree with some of my choices, it should definitely be relatively accurate and won't be a mess like this one. You will subscribe to my channel.
No, we won't.
You will subscribe to my channel.
No, we won't. Do it.